How's it going and welcome to Comic Talk. I'm Brad and I'll be your host. Today we'll be taking a look at Action Comics 981 and it continues the revenge storyline. And this issue picks up exactly where the last issue left off. So here we have both of the covers that were released for this issue of Action Comics 981, and I think that both of the covers have amazing artwork. I like both of them and it was hard to choose which cover I wanted. In the end, I went with the Superman with the stop sign cover because it was the only one that my comic shop had. Now, Action Comics 981 picks up pretty much exactly where the last issue left off, with Superman being inside the vault and facing his fears and his doubts and his demons being manifest in front of them, and he's pretty much being driven crazy. It's gotta suck. We can see here that Superman is really struggling with what's happening in the Black Vault, and it almost looks like Superman is going to lose his mind. If it wasn't for the Black Vault being dissolved, who knows what would have happened to the Man of Steel in there. Now, as the Black Vault dissolves, it's kind of neat to see that Amanda Waller is just standing there. And I want to point out that Amanda Waller in the Rebirth series she's black, which Amanda Waller has always been black, but she's also a heavier set rather than being thin. And in the New 52, they made Amanda Waller thinner. And a lot of fans are like, why can't we have a heavier set character in the comic books? Why does everyone got to be thin and sexy? And so I'm happy to see that Amanda Waller is back to being her regular self and is representative of heavier people. It's not like everyone can have rippling muscles in the DC universe. So the next scene that we're given is General Zod, and he's been released from Bel Rev prison, and he doesn't have any of the effects, any of the mind-numbing, disorienting effects that Superman's had, because Superman was in Bel Rev when the Black Vault imploded. Looks like it imploded right into him. It looks like he absorbed it or something like that. But General Zod seems just fine. He just doesn't really want to work with the Eradicator. He doesn't want to work with Cyborg. It's the same thing as Mongol. Does not play well with others. Unless, of course, you're Kryptonian and you follow him and call him General Zod. And you kneel before him. Kneel before Zod. At first he doesn't want to work with them, but Eradicator and Cyborg Superman eventually convince him to work with them. It's like, it's not like a real alliance. You know that he could just step away at any point, but for better or for worse, right now in the short term, he's decided not to kill Cyborg Superman, which he threatened to do, but rather, okay, fine. I'll work with you for now. Because, the thing is, Cyborg Superman and the Eradicator and General Zod all have the same problem. Superman constantly gets in the way of everything they want to do, and they need to destroy Superman for anything that either of them want to do, even separately, to work. The next scene we get is Superman waking up, obviously really disoriented, in a pit where the Black Vault used to be, and Amanda Waller's talking to him. Superman doesn't like Amanda Waller. He deplores the way that she does things, but Amanda Waller's okay with it because she thinks that she's doing this for the greater good. It's here that we learn that it was Rick Flag that imploded the Black Vault and saved Superman's life, or sanity, or both. We also notice something quite important that you could actually miss if you don't get to the end of the comic that I'm not going to point out. I'm just going to show you a picture of it here. Okay, now remember that for later. We also see that there's a big loud alarm and it's driving Superman crazy. He needs that alarm to be turned off. His ears are really sensitive since being inside of the Black Vault and the implosion thereof. After he has a short conversation with Amanda Waller and telling her how much he deplores her ways, he basically is like, I gotta go off and catch Zod. I'll see you later. Whew. Now the next scene we see that General Zod, the Eradicator, and Cyborg Superman are off flying in the night sky. General Zod wonders where they're going. He finds out they're going to a moon base so they can plan their next move. Remember, his whole goal is to release the rest of his Kryptonian criminal friends from the Phantom Zone so that he can carry out taking over Earth and reshaping it in Krypton's image. Zod also takes this time to question the Cyborg Superman and Eradicator exactly what it is that they get out of this working together with Zod. Cyborg Superman just wants revenge. He still blames Superman for the death of his wife and his crew, and he just wants to destroy Superman for that reason and that reason only. The Eradicator's idea and motives are different. He believes that Superman has disgraced the House of El by marrying Lois and then having a child, having John. He believes that Superman has diluted the Kryptonian bloodline by having a half-human, half-Kryptonian hybrid being. He believes that Krypton's purity must be reignited. At this point, I think it's important to point out that General Zod has no idea about this whole bloodline thing. He has no idea that Superman has a half-Kryptonian, half-human hybrid child roaming around on planet Earth. He has no idea. The next scene we're treated to is a glorious 2-page spread where Superman comes in and knocks them all over like bowling pins with his classic line, "This ends now!" He always says that. This ends now. The funny thing is, when Superman says that, things don't usually end. They usually get worse. Now, the next couple of pages has General Zod and the Eradicator and Cyborg Superman battling it out in the skies. And Superman gets a few good ones in, but we're quickly learning that Superman is in no condition to take on Zod, the Eradicator, and Cyborg Superman. It's a bad scene. Now, if you've read this comic by now, you must have noticed Superman's eyes are a much lighter blue than they usually are. Again, for those of you who haven't read it, take note. You'll find out in the end what I'm talking about. The whole scene is being captured by a news helicopter that happens to be right nearby, and John and Lois are watching it on the television set. Now, after a little bit more fisticuffs in the sky between the Eradicator, Cyborg Superman, and General Zod, we see that Superman, he really isn't fit for this. He can't do it. There's something definitely wrong with the Man of Steel. And General Zod gives him one more almighty bash and says he needs to put him down like a dog. Superman flies down into the ground, smashes into a pipe, and then disappears. General Zod, at this point, just assumes that Kal-El's being a coward and he's just disgracing the House of El and whatever, like he's just a big wussy. The news chopper that is hovering overhead also sees that Superman's disappeared, and Lois and John are watching it, and John is like, Dad ran. Why did Dad run? Now, if you read Superman comics as long as I have, you'll know that Superman's not a coward, and he never runs away. He never shies away from a fight. He will keep fighting until his dying breath. So something else is happening here that we're not taking into account yet. And I gotta tell you, I had no idea. I got all this way in the comic and I had no idea what was happening. Seriously, just wait for it. The next scene we see that Superman's flown off and he's flying directly to Lois and John. But he hated leaving like that. He hates leaving a battle, but he had to leave, clearly. The condition he was in, he couldn't stick around to fight. He would have been destroyed. So he takes off, and he goes and finds Lois and John. And when he lands and finds them, she can tell that something is wrong right away. He doesn't look right. And so she's questioning him on it, and he's trying to explain, no, there's, something happened. The Black Vault, it did something to me. And eventually he just comes right out with it and says, it's his eyes. Superman can't see. He's gone blind. And that's where they leave us. Right there, with a blind Superman at the end of this issue. Oh my God. Now, Superman can technically use his ears and hear things so well that he can pinpoint where he is and what's going on, but he certainly cannot take on 3 of the world's toughest superpowered beings with no eyesight whatsoever. Something happened in the Black Vault that messed up his eyes. Now, it's at this point that I look back and realize, I'm such a dummy. Of course. That's why when Superman first came to, everything was black from his perspective in his 2 little boxes. He was blind. That's why his eyes were a lighter blue, because he's blind. That's why he couldn't fight Zod and the Eradicator and Cyborg Superman properly, because he's blind. Also, just looking back, I did skip over some pages that showed you that Supergirl, Superman from China, and Lex Luthor were actually watching the same news feed that Lois and John were watching. And I'm going to assume that Superman is going to have a big group of people coming to his aid to help him stop Blanc, the Eradicator, Cyborg Superman, Zod, Mongul, and Metallo. This is going to be a battle of the ages, and I can't wait to see where this takes us. I also think it's important to point out that this takes place after the events happening in Superman comics where Lois has lost her leg, although we all know that her leg isn't missing. It's some kind of mind trick from Manchester Black. I like this issue. I like the story. I like the fact that they've given us some suspense. They left us on a good cliffhanger. The artwork is good in this comic book. I really like this issue, and I really am happy with what they're doing with the Superman story. It's a great time to be a Superman fan, for sure. Honestly, I would rate this comic a full 10 out of 10 because there's nothing about it that I would change. I think it was that good. Anyhow, that's all I had time for today, so thank you so much for taking time to watch. If you liked the video, please slap a like on it. If you think you want to see more of this content, please subscribe to the channel and you'll see more of what we put out, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.